On Wednesday, January 19th, 2020, in Honolulu, Hawaii, the Honolulu Police Department lost 2 officers in the line of duty. This incident can be found by looking up the Hibiscus Drive Incident. We were able to sit with two police officers and a firefighter who were present that day. We talked about life on the island, serving, and what it means to get a chance to tell your story. And one of them talked about why he didn't become a dentist. Here we go. All right, here we go. So it is Wednesday, August 4th, and we are sitting in a break room in the Honolulu Police Department building, sitting with Bryce. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself. I'll start off the introductions. My name is Eddie Molina, and I am the Southeast Regional, I like to call myself the commander, but I'm the Southeast Regional Manager for the ALERT program, training program that comes out of the Texas State University. We provide training to first responders all across the country, and as many people as we possibly can train up. We're going to do introductions. We'll go around the room. And Emily, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am the Senior Regional Coordinator at ALERT. Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
I like
Nice
it nice
and
and
brief.
short.
Yeah, that is good. That's a good way to say it. So Emily's our stand-in producer, and she's trying to take over the producer job. We had a couple of incidents back home, so we had the producer go unable to show up on this trip. So Emily got forced into going to Hawaii and take up the producer role. So here she is, and we'll go around the room. Sitting to my left is Bryce. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Bryce Hamamoto. I'm currently sergeant with the Honolulu Police Department. I have about a little over 10 years with the department. Spent most of that time in District 5, which encompasses Kaulike. And I think I've been an adjunct instructor with ALERT for about 2 years.
Tell me again, Bryce, how many years you have on the department?
A little over 10.
10 years. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Neil, how about you?
Hi, I'm Neil Hahn. I'm currently a lieutenant with the Honolulu Police Department. I have about 22 years in the department right now. Most of my career has been in plainclothes operations, and I've been an adjunct instructor about 4 or 5 years now.
All right, great. Kiana.
Hi, I'm Kiana Cam. I am the lone Honolulu Fire Department representative for today. Been part of our department for almost 20 years and part of the ALERT program as an adjunct. Maybe 3
years.
About 3 years.
Yeah, great. Well, good to have you all. We're going to kind of go through some of the life on the island stuff. We all like to talk about first responder stuff and the challenges that we go through. But being a mainlander, I want to know about life on the island, and I want to know what it's like to grow up here and what it is that you all think is important. So, Kiana, I'm going to start off with you. You know, obviously, you've been around here you said on the department for almost 20 years now. Do you remember taking the test to get on?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah? Tell me
Yes.
about it.
In all honesty, it's almost legacy. My dad was in the department, and he saw his daughter kind of struggling with keeping a job and just not knowing what I wanted to do. So he told me, just take the test. So I ended up taking the test. No prep for the written test. Went in there. Did okay. I mean, they called me for interview and had to pass the agility. So, I mean, one of the best things he ever did was kick me in my butt and just say, just do it. Because he knew that the 40-hour work week was not going to cut it for me. It's been heaven ever since. Once I got into the department, it's such a great job. 10 days
Awesome.
a month, can't complain. Lots of adventures, meeting the people. So it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Part of the reward of being a first responder is that you don't have to sit in that office building all the time and crunch numbers and all that. So it's something a little bit different every day. And I love that. I was a cop for 25 years in the San Antonio Police Department in San Antonio, Texas, and I loved every minute of it. We all have our challenges along the way, but gosh, I love being a first responder. I love being able to impact people's lives every time we're out there. Neil, what about you? What was the weirdest job you had before you became a cop?
The weirdest job. I don't even know if I want to say it.
All right, now we have to go.
No. I think the weirdest job I ever had was right out of high school. My father was like, I don't want you to do nothing for the summer. You got to do something. So I ended up just taking this random job where all we did was like refurnish furniture and install furniture at like hotels and stuff. So I remember that year, Tokai University was like a brand new building. Like a university from Japan was being built in Hawaii, and literally every picture, every bookshelf in the library, I put it in. And it was like the worst because that was truly labor. So that was probably one of the worst jobs I've ever had.
All right. So you said it was the worst. Was that the worst work or the worst product? You didn't leave like shelves hanging like sideways, did you?
No. I mean, we did a good job, whatever it may be, but it was the worst job and definitely not worth the money that they paid at the time.
Do you go back to check it out?
Every time I drive by that building, I'm reminded of that. You know what I mean? So
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. It was a good lesson.
Right. Definitely.
So we became a cop then.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Good. All right, Bryce. So what about you? When you became a cop, I know I asked Kiana about if she remembers getting on. So I know that back in the day when I got onto the police department and when I started the application process, it was one of those things where you had to camp out because so many people wanted to become a police officer in San Antonio. Do you remember the whole process back then?
For the most part, yeah, the majority of it. It wasn't like that where you had to camp out or anything. It was online. You submit your application or interest form, and then they just mail you back and forth the application process.
Oh, wow, that's cool. But you grew up close by, so it was easier for you to do that.
Yeah, I did. Actually, at the time when I applied for HPD, I was living up here for school.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's great. Were you at the University of Hawaii?
I was at a small private college called Shamana. It's like right next door.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Catholic school.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Well, good. All right. So, Kiana, you said that you told me earlier that you grew up surfing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really want to know about the surf rigs that you guys put together because I've seen some cars with some really cool surf rigs and how you're taking your boards and moving around the island. What was your first car that you remember putting a surfboard attached to?
It was a Ford Mercury, blue. It was my mom's pride and joy, and I just demolished it with sand and all of my friends, and she was mad at me for a very long time. But we ended up just putting the soft racks, which is just take them off, put them on whenever you need them, and if I didn't have the racks on, then I would just shove it in the back of the car and hatchback. Gotta love hatchbacks.
Awesome.
But that was my first surf car.
Oh, that's cool. What about your board? What was your first board?
Oh, I had a short board. I went straight short board. I went from the boogie board, which talk about rivalries. You have the bodyboarders and then you have the surfers. So I went from the bodyboarding to like, no, I'm going to be one of those guys that stands up on the board. And so I went straight short board and never looked back.
Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to all the stories. I'm going to ask you more surfing questions, both here and offline later on, because I want to hear it all. I loved growing up and watching surfing competitions and thinking about all those things that y'all are doing over here on the islands. I think the culture here is great, but man, any culture that revolves around the water, I just love it. Did you ever run into Kelly Slater?
No,
he was not that big of a deal to you guys out here.
Oh, I'm sure all the girls thought he was a big deal out here, but I was a little on the older side, so.
I like it. I can relate. I didn't really know what Bryce was talking about when he said online. So, yeah, I'm a little bit older than that. Yes. Yeah. I had to go over there with the stone and the chisel. Okay, so, Neil, when you started down the pathway to becoming a first responder, Like, what was the reasoning? What were you thinking becoming a cop?
Right before I applied to be a police officer, I was actually a loss prevention officer at a big retail chain. And a bunch of the guys that I work with, we actually all came into the department all around the same time, like 5-6 of us. So it was one of those things where we would interact when we did pick up somebody. Police officers would come, they would say, hey, you should try apply, you know what I mean? Kind of stuff like that. So it got a bunch of us motivated to apply to be police officers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the first patrol car you were assigned? Do you remember what it was?
What do you mean, a patrol car?
You didn't have patrol cars. Oh, I got you.
Actually, when I first came there, after I graduated from the academy, I did some undercover work.
Okay.
So I was under for a little bit over a year, and that was interesting. So when I did eventually come out and have to go through FTO and all that stuff, it was interesting. I was a little bit more experienced. I knew kind of how to better write reports per se, because I've already had practice doing those kind of things, whatever it may be. So the FTO phase was a little easier, I would say, than for most guys coming straight out of recruit school and stuff like that. So. Okay.
Well, that's good. Yeah, you get a little bit more experience, a little bit more confidence, understanding, and all that. That's cool. What was the coolest perk about being a cop when you first got on?
I guess just I don't want to say the freedom, but I did enjoy there's a certain amount of freedom to it when you're driving around in a police car. What you do I guess prior to that, I mean, I had you work within certain whatever, but as a patrolman, you kind of have the freedom to do the enforcement you want to do. You know what I mean? You initiate your own traffic stop. You jam your own guys, whatever it may be. So I did like the freedom of that aspect. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of team aspect, obviously, right, that I enjoyed. Sure. Us as a sector, as a watch. I mean, we got into a lot of things, obviously, as all officers do. And obviously, off duty, you do a lot of things together also. So a lot of team building. I enjoyed a lot of that part.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. The team building thing, the team aspect of what we do as first responders is a big deal. But the whole, I guess, what we decide to do on the team building exercises or team building days, right. I think they all kind of run the same, whether we're on the mainland or on the islands. I think we're all the same people.
Right.
Cops and firefighters, we rival with each other so often, but we end up at the same team building exercises and the same style of stuff. Bryce, what about you coming onto the department? What was the big motivator? Did you have a history of that? Was your family's in law enforcement?
No, I'm kind of the oddball in the family, the black sheep. I have all my family is dentists. My dad's a dentist. My brother, my sister, my cousin, and my uncle, and I'm the lone black sheep in the family. But for me, it was I still remember it. When I was really young in elementary school, we went through the DARE program, and I was like, oh, this seems like a really cool job to do. And from there, I just always thought about going into law enforcement. And when I graduated high school, barely graduated high school, I went to Chaminade for criminal justice, and then I applied right after that and got in. It just was something I always wanted to do when growing up, watching all the cops movies. And
I think Bryce just wanted to carry a gun.
He's a gun guy. That might be part of it too.
Part of it.
I had the wrong job.
I am a gun guy, so that I grew up hunting. That's why I kind of, like how we talked about earlier, I did the air riflery thing because that was kind of a thing that I was into, is target shooting and going out hunting and that kind of thing growing up.
What was your first service weapon?
It was a Smith & Wesson 5906. I think at the time HPD was one of the few in the nation that was still rocking that.
Yeah.
From 20, I don't even remember when we transitioned to the Glock. I think it was 2014.
Yeah, something like that.
2014.
Oh wow, that's so later on during the game.
It was kind of forced, I think, upon the department because Smith & Wesson has stopped making it for years already. So we had to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I liked the 5906. It was a good shooter.
It was dependable.
Yeah.
It's a heavy gun.
It's heavy.
So are y'all still carrying semi-automatics?
yeah, so we transitioned to the
Glock
the
17.
Glock 17.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's good. All good weapons, great. And I guess, it's all a matter of what you're able to do with it at the time.
Right.
And that's good. So cool. So you're a weapons guy, a hunter. So give me a hunting story. What's your favorite hunt that you do here?
Well, actually, since getting into the department, I really slowed down. Didn't have that much time to go. Well, most of my hunting is when I was in high school, intermediate in high school. So I, probably, the first, I still remember the first pig I shot, with my dad growing up. That was probably the most memorable, right? Your first animal that you get to take down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Did they?
it was a tiny one. It wasn't big or anything, but to me it was like, I think I was like 10 at the time. So I was like, oh, look, my first pig I actually got.
Sure,
And
you remember
so,
the experience.
Yeah, I remember it. Like, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
good.
Great. Yeah, I tell you what, my kids grew up hunting and fishing and doing all that. And I remember the first time my dad took me out doing that stuff. And it was a great experience. It's something you'll keep with you for your entire life. My daughter put her first pig down when she was 6 years old, and that was what she wanted to do. So it's like, yeah, we're all over it. And she'll sit there and tell you the story and remember each little piece of each detail. So that's kind of cool. So I've heard a lot of hunting since I've been with the HPD guys for the last couple of days. I've heard a lot of cool hunting stories, and everybody loves to hunt. But what do y'all do for fishing around here? We drove along the North Shore yesterday and saw a lot of people surf fishing along the shorelines. What are they fishing for out there?
I'm gonna wager, I guess, a lot of it is like the little silver, like papio and. But what is that?
I'm not really a fishing guy. All my friends were. I was more the guy that sat on the beach and drank beer, and waited till we wanted to go hunting. But I would have to assume if they're on those kayaks, shoot, they catch anything from bottom fish to tuna, ahi, the local yellowfin. So I know the guys, they catch all kinds of stuff on those things. My uncle goes out on the North Shore in a kayak, and he mostly catches bottom fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. So that style of what you're doing on the beach is really not a bad choice of what to do. I don't mind doing that at all. But I wrote down when you told me that all your family was dentists. The thought that popped into my head was that little dentist guy from the Island of Misfit Toys, and I can't get that picture out of my head. So maybe we'll figure out a way to superimpose that on the video later on.
Well, if you need dental work done while you're here,
you've got a hookup for me.
Yeah, I got multiple places you can go.
That's awesome. Great. So we also like to talk about training and those types of things as we go along. And we're going to hit the first responder training. We're going to talk about all the cool training ups that we've done along the way. But what I want to hear about is some of the cool physical training. I know that surfing is a big challenge, and you said you played football, right, Neil?
Yes.
And Bryce, you were a soccer player. So what is the coolest physical challenge that you've done, whether it's workouts or events or anything like that? What are some of the cool things that y'all have done here on the island for workouts?
I know when we were training for our wrestling meets, we would run up Wilhelmina Rise. And if you're not familiar with Wilhelmina Rise, it's a very steep street in the Kaimuki area.
Yeah.
It's very steep, and it just gets, as you go higher, it gets steeper and steeper.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So-
used to do the in between where you go up. It's like just sprint up the.
Just small chunks of it?
Yeah, it gets cut up by a longer, windier street, so you go from block to block.
Oh, okay. And you guys would do the whole thing?
Yes.
Wow. How long would that take?
I want to say you're running up the thing. So, you can probably get it done within 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. That's not long at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it is quite a workout.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I think about running even on flatland for 15 to 20 minutes, it's a long workout. Just thinking about it.
Right.
So that's awesome. And wrestlers are without a doubt some of the most fit people out there. So that's great. Good deal. What's the big thing for physical training in the academies here? What do y'all do? Y'all do a lot of CrossFit, or is it running, or what do y'all do the most of?
I think a lot of the officers, they do a lot more weightlifting here than anything else. I think eventually they start evolving where, you know, it's better probably to be a little bit more, fit all around. You know what I mean? So they start running more and whatever.
Functional
maybe.
fitness.
Functional fitness. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
I know when I worked patrol in the Kaulike area, we had a mid shift, and a whole bunch of us, like 10 of us before our shift, would go to Cocoa Head. And we would do Cocoa Head hike. And if you're not familiar with Cocoa Head hike, it's basically it used to be an old rail.
It's brutal.
Right? And it's pretty brutal. And we used to do that workout prior to all of us going into a work. So that was always good.
Is that an all day hike or a couple hours?
If you train, you can probably do it within 20, 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Up and down.
Up and down. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That may be something to do while I'm here.
You should try it.
Yeah.
Bring water.
Bring water.
And
right.
don't go during midday.
Yeah.
Don't go during midday. Bring water and
the tourists.
So I can call
there's
for
a
help.
lot of tourists out there right now. Yeah. So
all right.
just
Cool.
be mindful of that.
So top of Cocoa Head, is it good for pictures?
Oh, definitely.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, wow. Awesome. I'm sold, and I'll be doing that then.
With a couple hundred of your friends at this point.
Oh, great.
It's
closest friends.
Very popular.
Closest friends.
Very popular.
Awesome. Cool. So tell me about the coolest thing that we have to see, or what's the coolest thing that we have to see on the island before we leave?
The coolest thing.
I don't know. I think we
It's a
take
nice-
everything for granted because we grew up here. Right.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
when I go to the mainland, I'm like, wow, you know, or
Yeah.
go out of state, I'm just in awe. But we come here, we're just like, beach.
Pretty much.
Right.
I go to the mainland, I see a squirrel. I'm like, squirrel.
Yeah.
So it's not the same.
That's
I don't know.
actually like when I go to the mainland too and I see a squirrel, I'm like,
I
holy
swear
cow,
to God,
it's a
it's
squirrel.
squirrel.
And it's
It's
funny.
not even funny. Yeah. It's just,
Yeah, and I think you're right, Bryce. I think we all end up taking things for granted just because of
Right.
where we're at on a daily basis. I was talking about the Pacific Coast Highway drive in California. It's like I've done that a couple times and I just love it. It's such a beautiful place to go.
Right.
But then we did the North Shore Drive and we drove along the waterfront, and it's like there's no comparison. I mean, Hawaii is such a beautiful state. The scenery is just ridiculous. All the greenery is awesome. The waterfront, the formations out there, it's beautiful to see.
I think we need to hear that because, like Bryce said, we do take it for granted.
Right.
So hearing other people come and say how beautiful it is, okay,
yeah.
we got to take a step back. And it's like, yeah, okay, we live in paradise, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, it's good. But it's nice to know that other people
Appreciate it.
appreciate it as
Right.
much as we probably should appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we talked about the waterfront communities or any community that's built around the water, it seems like there's so much joy in it.
Right.
It's like people seem so happy. I had a conversation with the cafeteria lady at the Miami Police Department, and I asked her, she was singing every day. I'd go and stop in for coffee and something to eat, and she was just happy. And I asked her what is it that keeps you going? She's like, have you been to the beach yet? And I had not at the time. The next day I went, and it makes sense. It's like she says, when you're that close to the beach, you go to the water and you're happy.
Mm.
And that totally makes sense.
Where are you guys staying at?
So we're staying at the Outrigger. Right
in
on the
Waikiki.
Yeah, right in Waikiki. Yeah.
I mean, for me, if I was a tourist here, I'd want to check out Waikiki Beach because that's historic already, and it's in itself, right? Going down Waikiki Beach, and then right close by Waikiki, you have Diamond Head. Go check out Diamond Head. You can walk up. That one is a pretty
easy
That's
hike.
an easier hike than Cocoa Head, but
And
it's
they
still
A loop now.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
it still has great views you can pretty much see all the way down the coastline.
Oh, that's
from there.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean that would be a pretty good short hike for you guys to go check out.
Oh, cool.
Easier. I mean, if you want to go for the brutal one, Cocoa Head is.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I could do both in a day.
Yes.
Could do both in a day.
Do Cocoa Head first though. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it out of
Yeah.
the way.
Are they
After
close
co-
enough that we can get from one to the
Oh,
other?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like
cool.
Yeah.
15-minute
After
drive.
Cocoa Head, every other hike would be like, this is nothing.
Awesome. That's cool. Great. So tell me about your first training. Obviously, you'll go through the academy. Both fire and police side, we go through the academy. What was your first train up side? So I know on the police side, we have more high intensity traffic areas, or what y'all call, I think over here in Honolulu, y'all call it crime reduction units.
Yes.
When y'all went to crime reduction units, I think, do y'all have experience in that?
Yes.
So when you all go to that kind of unit, how does the training change? What's the biggest part of the training change?
I think obviously it's a little bit more frequent than what normal patrol officers would get. It is a cross between SWAT tactics and what the patrol guys are also learning too. So we always say that crew officers are a bridge between SWAT and patrol officers. So we train crew officers to know a little bit of both, so that if something should happen, when crew guys come on scene, they kind of know what the patrol guys are doing, and they can start setting up what the SWAT guys are going to need eventually when they get there.
Okay, great. Yeah. More team oriented.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. Good idea. And that's definitely a good idea. Most people don't realize that the job of the normal standard patrol officer out there becomes a single man job.
Right. Exactly.
And then once you start going to these reduction units or these crime teams, that you end up in a team environment. That's really big stuff. Kiana, what was the coolest training you've been to on the fire side?
Early in the career, when we were still in recruit class, one of the best training that I had was what we call a live burn, or like flashover training, where they stick you in this container, this box container with a whole bunch of wood and gasoline, and they light that shit on fire, and you're in there, and you get to see what it's like to be in a burning building with fire rolling up over you, behind you. And it was really good. It was a good experience. It's really freaking hot in there. But I think our department, we're pretty proactive in how we've been trying to train our individuals. So we do a lot of firefighting based, like rapid intervention training, fire ground survival training, which is all super good. And then hooking up with these gentlemen and doing the alert stuff was really eye-opening. And it's such a great thing that I think the state, and especially both the departments, working together to try and get us in a place where, even though we're stuck on an island, bad stuff's bound to come, which obviously it already has.
Sure.
So I think the prep that we're doing and the classes and the instruction, I think, was very beneficial.
Yeah, you guys are very progressive here on the island. Obviously, the governor here, he's big on pushing you all to do training, and the leadership here at Honolulu Police Department and Fire Department, you guys are very progressive on training, and y'all are very aggressive on getting out there and finding new stuff and finding out what y'all need to be doing. So it's kind of cool to watch it all happen. So as a firefighter, you said you're coming up on 20 years. How many training regiments had you gone to where you actually trained with police officers?
Oh, this is the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that seems to be a consistent thing.
Right.
Is that pretty much the same thing on the police side as well?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems to be like a consistent thing across the board. It's like we'll run into people who've been on 20 and 30 years. Say, man, we've never trained. We never cross-trained.
Right.
We go to all the same scenes. And every time there's a large-scale incident, anytime there's a football game, anytime there's anything going on, it's a car wreck, we all end up in the same place, but we never train together. And somehow we all survive. But now we're putting out training to where it actually makes it one team and we're working together. And I'll be the first to tell you, I mean, I won't do it out loud. I guess this is kind of out loud because it's being recorded. But I know that there's stuff that firefighters do way better than we do. And there's stuff that cops do much better than what firefighters do. And it all comes from the background and the training and all. But yeah, once we get everybody together and we start training together, it's kind of a really neat product that we push out there. So I love hearing the stories of how much y'all are pushing training out there. Like I said, you guys are progressive, and you guys are kind of leaders in the whole industry of doing this.
I'll tell you a funny story. Because of the training we've been doing with the fire guys, 4 years ago, I asked them if they could put on a breaching class for us, the firefighters, because obviously they know how to breach a lot better than us. So I believe at least 4 or 5 sessions now we've had with HFD where the crime reduction unit officers, we were taught breaching from the fire guys. And because of those classes, it updated our equipment. You know what I mean? We found that our breaching tools that we had, they were kind of outdated equipment. And because of the training they provided for us, we were actually able to update everything that we have and majority of the crime reduction unit guys now are actually good breachers. Yeah, and that all stemmed from this training.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent several years on our TAC team in San Antonio, and one of the things that I can definitely say that we pushed was the fact that the firefighters were better at breaching. Like they had everyday experience on breaching,
Right?
Popping doors, opening car doors, taking tops off of cars. I mean, anything that had to do with breaching, they had all the cool tools.
Right.
And so we'd go over to one of the rescue units and go learn about how to breach, and sometimes steal their stuff. But that's just part of the game too. But yeah, they were always willing to help us out. They were always willing to help us out, and we really enjoyed that. Bryce, tell me about the coolest training. I guess, yeah, the best training class that you went to. What's the coolest training that you've had since you've become a cop?
Well, when you first get on to the crime reduction teams, they make you go through this new officer training. And, when you go through, it's about a week long. Yeah.
Right.
About a week long. And it's, coming right off the road from patrol to a new unit, and then going through that new officer training. It was really eye-opening. So I thought that week of instruction from that new officer training was probably the best training I've gotten throughout my time in the department. It covers high-risk vehicle stops. It covers, room entries. It covers, crowd control management, munitions. And that week, I had a blast, and we still do it maybe every year. We'll put on the new officer training for the new crime reduction guys.
What's that like 11 years down the road now, and you're actually the ones putting that class on that you enjoyed so much taking?
It's a lot of fun, actually. I mean, I never really coming on from into the crime reduction teams. I never really thought that I would be far down the line teaching this stuff, and actually all my time with the crime reduction unit was under Neil. I think it's about 6 years under Neil, and I had about 6 months in another unit as a corporal. But majority of the time he was my sergeant before he got promoted. And we learned I learned a lot, and from going from knowing not absolutely just patrol work to being able to train, being able to learn all these new techniques. I thought it was probably the best training.
You knew guns, but
yeah, we need to have that guy there, right?
We need every team needs that guy.
Sergeant Tackleberry, please report. Yes, I get that guy. I know it. That's cool. All right, so there's a lot of things that have happened here along the way. You guys have had incidents along the way, and there's one incident that stands out, and it's the Hibiscus shooting. And people have heard about it a lot. And I know that there's certain things that we can't really touch on because there's still ongoing litigation, and we're totally sensitive to all of that stuff. So we will be careful not to tread on anything that needs to be left out. And if there is, obviously we'll edit it out later on. So all three of y'all were present during that incident, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So I kind of want to touch base if we could just kind of touch base and maybe a little bit of a feel for what actually happened that day. Obviously, the general, what's already out there. If one of y'all can kind of just cover the general points of what happened that day.
Basically, patrol officers were sent to a routine call about a neighbor who's the troubled neighbor in that block. And when the officers arrived on scene, there was already a female who was stabbed, I believe. While they were addressing her, a couple of officers went to address the male who was inside the house. And when they approached the house, I believe they were shot. Okay. Well, one officer was initially shot. And then a secondary officer that came on scene, he was shot a short time later. And unfortunately, both passed away. After he was barricaded in the house, he ended up, I'm not too sure exactly, but he ended up causing a fire within the residence. And that fire basically erupted where it burned down almost the entire block.
Wow. So that's a new a new thing that's out there where people are talking about it, and we're paying more attention to that type of a offensive move from the bad guys. So what was your role? What was your role during the day that day?
I was actually off duty that morning, but I received a call from an officer who said that an officer was shot in Waikiki. So I turned on my radio just to listen, and I could still hear gunfire going off on the portables from my house. So I kind of just blasted a text it out to all the crew sergeants, crew officers, as much as I could to just say, hey, start heading down. So,
and when you're, and just real quick for the audience, when you say the portables, you're talking about the handheld radios that we have? Okay,
radios,
cool.
Yes. So I made my way down, and obviously I got there after the officers were evacuated out, whatever. There was a command post kind of set up. So I kind of went to the command post to see like what help they needed. And when I got there, I tried to coordinate all the oncoming officers to kind of stage them to properly deploy them. So that's kind of what I ended up doing. And obviously, Bryce was one of the officers that showed up on the scene, and I was trying to help the incident command kind of coordinate what to do with the officers on scene.
Okay, right. So you were taking the leadership role, helping helping coordinate, help set everything up, staging things as they need to be. And staging is one of those things that people don't really realize of what we do. Staging takes a big role in the first responder, response.
Right.
How we set things up for the next page, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. What about you, Bryce? What was your role that day?
Well, like Neil said, I was still attached to his unit as a footman, and I got the text because we were all off, and we all started heading in. I think I came after Neil was already on scene, and so I just reported straight to staging. From there, we formulated a team, and our task for my team was to escort a fire truck through the backside of the block, the backside of the house, and assist in providing security for them to try and mitigate or control the fire as best as they could. By that time, I think there was already 4-5 houses that were fully engulfed.
Wow.
It was the first time. I mean, I've been to the house fires before, but the first time to see it like that close up, it was pretty crazy.
Could you feel the heat?
Oh yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were eating smoke. It was pretty crazy.
All right, so I remember going to house fires and building fires and car fires, and they all had their own smell. They all had their own heat signature that was coming out. What was it like that day as cops, as the LE side on that fire scene? What was the heat like? Was that a memorable part for you guys?
Well, not only was the fire going off, there was ammunition exploding at the same time.
Oh wow! From
the house, so it was one of those like, holy cow! Did we all take cover?
Is this real?
Yeah, is this real? You know what I mean? And I do remember one of the fire captains approaching us and saying, hey, we want to help you guys control the fire so we can do whatever it may be. So we started coordinating with the SWAT guys and all the crew guys coming on scene because the fire guys, they really wanted to get in there and try help put the fire out. I do clearly remember that. And we were like, hey, let's get these guys in there so help them out. So that's why we ended up forming these, basically an RTF, but for fire trucks and stuff.
Right, and for RTF, just say again for the audience, RTF being a rescue task force,
yes,
where we assign law enforcement and fire personnel in the same group to kind of help each other out,
right?
Accomplish a goal, but we have security for the firefighters so they can do their job.
Yes.
Kiana, do you remember how many houses actually burned down that day?
Let's see. That's 6, huh? 6.
About 6 overall. So what was your role during the day?
We were fire suppression. So
okay.
We were the ones being escorted in by like Bryce. And
you were one of those RTFs.
Correct.
Sweet. So do you remember the heat from that? So earlier you had told me something about training where you had experienced a certain level of heat growing up in the department. Do you remember the heat? I mean, I know y'all wear bunker gear and cool boots and all that stuff, but there still has to be a heat coming through there.
Not to make light of the heat part of it, but that wasn't the part for, I think, us as firefighters that we remember, because that's what we deal with on a normal basis. So it really wasn't the heat. I think for me personally, it was the scale of what we were walking into. Like, I haven't seen anything like that before. Been to really big fires, really big structure fires, wildland, but I've never seen anything like that. So I think that was when we knew like the gravity of the situation. And we were actually going back the morning I was working on a different watch, working overtime. It was one of the firefighters, it was her first shift. It was her first shift at the station, period. And we were training and we saw the smoke. And I was like, and we were kind of watching the MDT.
Mhm.
So we knew what was happening. But it was just one of those, like, okay, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And then right as soon as we got done with the drill, we got the call. And it's like, fuck, I didn't want to go down.
Sure.
But so we ended up going down and ended up at the Charlie Division, which I think was where you guys were. And we were told we need to just continue doing the fire suppression side. So for us, it was just making sure that if we're being escorted in, we bring as much gear as possible so we don't have to keep going back and forth, because we don't want them having to work after it. And I think for me, in hindsight, because I've worked with them so much and I know how to work with them, you kind of try and expedite stuff.
Right.
So bring all the amount of gear that we can possible up there and just stay within the confines so there's no back and forth. And we were just trying to make sure all the fire was out, the hot spots, and then of course we found the gas lines, which
which was a completely different problem.
Which was a completely different problem. But
tell me about it.
When we're overhauling, we were assigned to one particular house and making sure the fire was out. And
can you describe overhauling?
Overhauling is just, when the majority of the fire is out and it was so bad, it was so hot that every single structure that was involved collapsed.
Okay.
Just because of the amount of the heat and how quickly the fire spread. But and they're older homes, so wood structures.
Right.
So once the buildings collapse, now it's a matter of making sure that everything underneath the collapse zone was extinguished. Try and overhaul as much stuff, salvage whatever personal items that we could find, and then all of a sudden, between all the firefighting, between all the communications, you hear the tss of. Like,
oh, great!
What is that? What is that? So I'm looking. It's like, okay, well, there's gas next to a fire, which memory serves, that's not necessarily a great thing. So we kind of had to back out for a little while until we figured out how exactly to handle that and mitigate that. And it's something that we should be always thinking about, that we take for granted because we're so in the zone of doing what our job is. The blinders are on. It's just one of those added things that we ended up having to deal with after the fact. Just how to shut down the gas. And
would you say you said that's one of the, I guess, almost like a fundamental part of what you guys do as firefighters? Yeah. Would you relate that back to the scale of the actual incident, that there was so much going on that you all kind of skipped a couple of things here and there? I
can't. I will not speak for the other crews,
right?
Because they had their own things that they were dealing with. I think that was just the card that we were dealt when we were assigned that. And I think during the fire itself, while they were trying to extinguish it, no one would have had any idea. But I think a lot of it is, if you're not assigned to that area, you don't know if they're powered by electric or gas. So that was just an added bonus where, okay, the entire line of houses had plumbed in gas.
Yeah.
So we were having pockets where fire was, because the gas was being released, fire was like shooting straight up in the air. So we ended up having to call the gas company. And I know they were having issues about how to exit to turn it off. So I believe they brought down like an excavator or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They shut it off at the main line.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's pretty big. That's
it was nothing. Obviously, everything went wrong, and it was problems were building. But eventually, obviously, they got solved, and everything was worked out.
So, Bryce, on your side, I know you stayed busy on RTF duty and kind of helping protect and guide. What was the biggest challenge, or what did you notice as the biggest challenge that day?
Well, for us, there was still a lot of unknowns. Yeah, so we didn't really know if the suspect was deceased in the house or if he
Escaped.
escaped.
We didn't know if he was in a basement somewhere in the old house.
So there was
a lot of unknowns.
There's a lot of unknowns with that. And for our team, we ate a little bit of smoke, but I know other teams had it a lot worse than what my team had. And because we were on the backside, when everything was all said and done and we were put on security duty for the location, you could just see how intensely hot it was on the front side, because there was like cars that were parked quite a distance away that had melted plastic bumpers, melted mirrors.
No.
So for me initially it was a lot of unknowns. I know fire wanted to cross a certain portion of the road to try and protect the other homes in the area, but because of all those unknowns, I think we kind of held. I mean, it was too many unknowns. We didn't know it was going on at that time, right? So that was the only thing that we had to deal with, or for our team in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that we're touching a lot on the actual events that day, and we've touched on training and all, but I really don't want to bypass or overlook the fact that we lost 2 officers that day, and that's a standout event. That's a bad day in any department or in any industry. We lose two of our own. Did you guys know them personally?
Yes.
Yeah. What part did they play in the department?
One was actually assigned to the Waikiki area. The other was actually assigned to another district, and he actually responded as a secondary officer. I knew KK personally because he's on what's called the RDF, which is a supplement to the crime reduction units as for riot control side.
Okay.
So he's come to some of my trainings before and so forth. I've met Tiffany a couple times. I didn't know her too well, but I know she was a good officer. So it's a tragedy across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no better word to use it, but tragic to describe what happened to the department that day. And I've talked to different people about the incident itself, and everybody's had great things to say about both of the officers. What was the aftermath of that for you guys as responders? And that's a huge thing to deal with. Like Kiana, like you said, the scale of the incident itself, on both the LE side and the fire side, and then to top that with the loss of 2 of our own. There's been a lot of talk about resiliency across the board and mental health. What did your department do, or do you feel like what did your department do for you guys afterwards? Was there counseling provided, or how did you all attack that problem?
I'll let Kiana.
Well, I'm part of our peer support and CISM debriefing team. I've been for almost my entire career. So for me, 100%, that was my main concern, was making sure that the people that actually, at least on the fire side, because that's all I was able to control, is make sure to put it in our incident commander's ears where please don't forget to hook them up with something or send a team or do something. And for me, I made sure that if my crew needed it at that time, I made sure that we talked about it and went back to the station and just let them relax or chill and focus on other things. But the support was there if I think we needed it.
Sure.
And I am 100% sure that each individual crew that ended up going was called and asked how they went. I think the initial crews are still working through it because I think they worked a lot with the officers. But we definitely have something in place in our department to help with mental health issues. And if there's something that we can't handle, we of course go with our EAP.
What's the EAP?
Employee assistance program, where you have the
Part of like a city program?
It's a city program. It's
Cool.
It's offered where we're allowed certain amount of sessions with
Yeah, that's awesome.
any sort of like whatever you need.
A professional.
Therapist, any sort of professional.
Yeah, and that's great. So, and one of the things, like I said, it's a big subject, and it's an important subject that none of us talked about. And there's a lot of talk on in the world about post-traumatic stress for military guys, people that were overseas, and people that experienced it during military action. But we don't really attack the problem on the first responder side, and it's a daily thing for us. We see it all the time. We're exposed to it all the time. Do you feel like the programs have changed in the wake of that incident? Do you feel like anything has been strengthened because of that? Because that's definitely one of the things that I've seen across the country after an incident. Although we try our hardest to have a suitable program in place, we tend to find the weaknesses in those programs and improve them, because that's a very big deal.
Right.
What changes did you all make here?
I think for the police department, we have very similar assistance programs already in place. But I believe after the incidents, a lot of the program was being pushed a little bit, obviously a little bit more. Just making sure that everybody knows a little bit more consistently that the services are there if it's needed. I know they did have debriefings with the officers who were initially involved. I do know till this day there are officers that are still not right, I would say. You know what I mean? You can tell. I know some officers who worked in that district at the time, they don't want to work there anymore. I know some officers who retired because of that incident. So obviously everybody, we all know, right? It affects everybody differently, whatever it may be. I know for my team, we had the first overnight shift of the crime scene to hold the crime scene itself. So for my guys, we were there from like early in the morning till way into the early evening. They had to go home, sleep a couple hours, come back in a couple hours. And I know when I went home, I didn't sleep, knowing that I had to go back there. And
Right.
I know that night, I told my guys, everybody's got a rifle, everybody's got their plate carriers. Because even at the time, like Bryce mentioned, we didn't know if he escaped. We didn't know if he was still hunkering down somewhere. We didn't know all that stuff. So I know for my guys, they had to be on high alert for all the way to the next morning. So almost a full 24 hours, they were at that heightened state. So I know for us, we had our own debriefing on our own to make sure that we were okay. And then making sure that they decompress, that they take a little time for themselves to rest their minds, body, mentally, physically, all that stuff, you know what I mean? And obviously, we always talk about it when we do training, right? We always bring it up, the incident, right? Something like this, unfortunately, it's something tragic, right? Law enforcement, right? Something tragic has to happen before changes are made, where the upper brass finally is like, hey, you know what, we got to do something out. And that's the sad part about law enforcement, right? Most of the time, it's something bad has to happen before changes are actually made or
Sure.
improvements are made, let's say.
And you feel, and you're absolutely right, across the board, that seems to be true. But you do feel like we're more aware of it now. In
Right.
HPD, we're definitely more aware of the things that needed to be done, and we're able to fix it. And the cool part about it is both of you all as supervisors and longtime people here, you guys get to have an impact in actually touching the young souls that we
Right.
have coming on to the departments, and that's a big deal. So you mentioned the heightened state of alertness, and that just wears us all out. I know on the fire side, you all have longer shifts than us, and I can't imagine working. What are the regular shifts for you guys?
Oh, we work 24-hour shifts.
Okay, so
And-
24 on and 48 off.
No, 24 on, 24 off.
Okay,
And then we work 3 shifts with days off in between, and then we get our 4 days off.
oh, okay. And you know what? It sounds like that's a really cush schedule. Like that's really neat until you have to go through it for that long, and it's a busy day, and you have 24 hours of actually answering calls all day. I know I've heard that from a lot of different people. First, cops bragging on firefighters and firefighters on cops. But then I've heard that from the general public where they say, oh, well, the firefighters only have to work 3 days. It's like until you actually put yourself at that state where, like you were talking about, a heightened state of alertness for that long, you're worn out. Even if you're taking a nap, you're worn out, and stuff that people don't really realize. So we talked a little bit about the resiliency of things. What did you change in your personal prep, Bryce? Like your personal prep for a daily deal, whether it's your prep gear or how you prep for the job or anything like that. Was there anything that you changed because of the incident?
Not so much. I mean, well, probably the one thing that we did change is make sure that we had a ballistic shield available in any of our cars, or at least on the road at any time. It was always talked about before the incident, but whether or not it was actually put in place, it after this incident, it definitely was. Like we make sure in our cars when we hit the road, we have a Hux, we have a Ram, we have a med kit, we have a ballistic shield. That I think that's probably the main thing that we always talked about it prior to this, because we have the luxury of going through all this training. We've been through the medical class where we learn how to what kind of trauma kits we need to put together. And we always talked about it, and I know a lot of the guys just, and I'm guilty of it too. We talk about it, but we don't actually put it into
Right.
play, right? So I think across the board, department wide, I see even not just our unit, I see the other districts. They all have ballistic shields in their car. They all have the Hux, the Ram.
What's the Hux?
Well, the Hux is it's like a breaching tool. I don't know. Probably Kiana can. We actually got the tool.
It's kind of like
from,
a Halligan.
Yep,
Kind of,
Halligan.
yeah.
Halligan. Yeah,
So-
we got the tool from HFD. The idea of
Did they know you got it from them?
Well, we
We
got
do now.
we got
That's
the
out.
idea
Late
of which
breaking
one
news.
to buy. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I think that's what the main change was, is everybody across the board was actually making sure those things were readily available on the road at all times.
Yeah, stuff that's
Yeah.
actually important that we didn't pay attention to until we needed it before. Now we're actually paying attention to it. So I know that on the LE side, on the PD side, everybody changes up, especially after you've been involved in an incident. You get involved in a weird foot chase or a fight or a car chase or a force-on-force incident. People change their gear up. People change what they carry. Some people will invest in their own weapons and their own training, and that's a great idea. What do firefighters change when they've experienced this scale of an incident?
That's a good question. I guess I'm almost of the same thing as Bryce, where I work right now, I'm already on a heightened awareness level because the people we respond to normally carry weapons. I never know what I'm walking into when I respond to any calls in my area, so I'm already super sensitive to stuff like that. So me personally, I haven't really changed anything. I think the after effects of it is not necessarily what I'm going to carry or what it's making sure that my crew understands why they should be. So it's more of a teaching tool at that point. It's like, hey, this is what we went through. This is what we really need to continue to focus on. Don't forget, there's 4 of us, 4 sets of eyes. But yeah, so for me, I just use it more as a learning tool. We don't really carry weapons
Sure.
per se, but there might be an extra.
No, but you guys changed a lot. Remember when they had the Marco Polo fire? Didn't you guys change the size of your hoses because of that incident?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. But so for something like this, though,
Yeah.
there's not much I think we can change tactically without
Right.
help from you guys.
Right.
So, and I think it's still one of those things that we're talking about. But I think going back and knowing that there's a possibility that we're responding to something like this, for us, all it comes down to is, like, I'm in a high-rise section. So even more so, because I work with you guys, I'm like, somebody could have, I mean, it's prime. It's prime to attack the fire engine. It's right there,
Sure.
whatever. It's happened before, obviously. So that's where the education comes in, where I'm trying to protect my crew. Is like,
Right.
I can't be the only person with eyes.
Right.
Where you guys have to understand what I'm looking for and why I'm looking for it.
Right.
Like half the calls we go to, I have to disarm them before we wake them up because they have machetes or they have some sort of weapon that if we wake them up the wrong way, they're going to use it on us. So
Right.
for us, it's just education. I think tactics wise, we just got to continue to, don't want to say it's going to happen again, but you know, on the off chance something like this does, now we kind of know better maybe how to work together.
Yeah.
But
Just
Oh yeah,
adding to
everything's.
what-
Yeah,
no.
go ahead.
No, just adding to what Kiana just said. I think because of what happened at the trainings, all the relationships were built over the years now. That was one of the reasons. I mean, obviously, right? PD guys are PD guys, fire guys are fire guys. That's how it always historically was. But now that we're training together, I think that's why the fire captain was able to approach us and ask us, hey, we want to help, whatever it may be. So now, anytime we have training with fire guys, we bring it up. Hey, this is what happened at Hibiscus. You know what I mean? We were able to work together, even in a situation like that, even though we didn't train escorting fire trucks into a warm zone or whatever it may be, but it was the relationships and letting people know that the relationships are there helps training and how to respond to incidents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So your
Okay.
experience with our training
Right,
had kind of set up the whole concept of how to work together.
right,
And that's basically what pushed you all to in the right direction through the whole
Right.
event.
Right.
In any event like that, a large scale event is going to be a challenge, and a large scale event with that much going on at the same time, it's just crazy. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for people to understand. It's hard for us to get people to understand without having actually experienced it. So yeah, there's a lot to that. What else do y'all think that we need to touch on about this incident? Now, obviously, we can't push out too much stuff that the public doesn't already know. Tell me about, when I go back to the resiliency stuff, tell me about what it was like at home after that. Because I know I hear it from people all the time when we talk about events that have passed. It's like, hey, I remember that night I went home and I hugged my kids a little bit tighter, or I called mom, or whatever it was. What was your all's response afterwards? How you recovered? Because I know you talked about being part of the counseling team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you react when you're exposed to stuff like that? What is it? What's your tool?
I'm lucky. My husband is also in the fire department, and the unlucky part. Fun fact: when we were actually at Hibiscus, I missed about 20 some odd texts and calls because he knew I was working, and he knew that somebody told him I went, and I wasn't answering my phone. I'm like, so. It's one of those things where it's awesome to have somebody that you can talk to, but it's also, he understands the danger. So I had to, first thing I did after was I called him. I was like, everything's okay. I'm fine. But I'm a talker. So I just go home and I just talk my husband's ear off.
That's a good thing. I mean, people don't realize how good that part of therapy is.
No, it is. But then, like, my joke is every time I go to a debriefing, I always had a partner, and it was always the same partner. And every time we got done with the debriefing, it's like, well, shit, who's going to debrief us now?
Yeah.
Because you're holding on to all the other stuff, which you may not have gone to, but you're still listening to it, and whatever if you care about the people that you're talking to, it's gonna resonate a little. So yeah, my husband has to deal with a lot of my jibber jabber, and he's a saint for it. I mean, he's not going to see this, so I can say that he's a saint for it.
Right.
I never tell him that, like, ever.
So you didn't send him a selfie from there to let him know you're okay. That's a good thing. With the fire in the background.
I'm bad,
That's good.
but I'm
That's
not
good
that
idea.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
definitely
good.
not
That's a
that
good
bad.
idea.
Yeah.
Actually, everybody deals with things in their own way.
Yeah.
I know I like to work out. I like to get away, maybe go on a long run, get a long workout in. I put my headphones on just to kind of lock everything else away. What about you guys? What do you guys do? What was it like afterwards?
Well, me personally,
You're a talker too.
actually, at work, I'm a talker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because I supervise so many guys, whatever it may be. But the funny thing is, at home, my wife is a family marriage therapist.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
So when I got home that night, all she wanted to do was ask me, obviously, right? Ask me how I'm doing. She wanted to talk about it. And to be honest, all I wanted to do was just
not talk about it.
not talk about it. So even at the time, I'm still worried about my guys, making sure they got a little rest, knowing that we had to go in that night and so forth. So I kind of let myself stay at a heightened state until I could get these guys back home the next day, And then the next day, obviously, my wife knew I didn't want to talk about it. I just needed a little quiet time where I just kind of brought myself down. And then we talked about it eventually, And my wife is a talker too. So, and she's trying to, I have that line with her. I tell her, you know what, stop trying to psychoanalyze me already, okay? So we did talk about it eventually, and that helped me get through that day kind of thing.
Yeah. Bryce?
Well, shoot, I'm not much of a talker either. Well, in general, I'm not much of a talker, but and my wife, she likes to, hear what's going on at work and whatnot. So, I appreciate it. My wife is very supportive. She's, put up with the horrendous schedule for, so long. And, so if I need to, I know I can talk to my wife about it. But for me, I kind of just, it's not probably a good thing, but I just kind of put it aside and go on to the next problem. That I'm more of that kind of personality, I guess. Like I know my wife is there to support me if I need it, and I'm lucky that my kids are small enough to where they don't really understand the whole what I do and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure my wife is glad that I'm behind a desk now. So, because after I got promoted, I do mostly desk duty. So it's a big change. So for me, I know my support is there, if I need it. So I gotta just give my wife credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing. We set up our own patterns of how we're going to deal with things, or what information we're going to pass to our families. You've got things different because you're married to a first responder. So we kind of set things up different. I know that I was I kind of limited the information that I would pass along to my family back in the day. So it's like it was always a challenge to remember what I could and couldn't pass. But I was the same way, Bryce. I went from being on a full-time SWAT team to being I wore dress shoes to work after that. It was kind of a weird change, weird gears to shift into. And so it was its own little challenge. So what about goals for the rest of your careers? I know you all have been here. Like Neil, you've climbed up to the rank of lieutenant.
Yes.
Right? What goals do y'all have for the rest of y'all's careers? Like any things y'all want to, any unit you want to work in, or any rank you want to achieve?
For me, I'm at the stage in my career where I'm on, I know how much more years I'm going to do in the department. I have a pretty good idea. So I'm at that giving back phase.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to do different things for the department right now. I don't know if I really want to say on the air exactly what those things are, but a lot of it is training. That's why I'm so heavily into the alert program. That's why I've invested the last, at least the last 7-8 years doing this program. But I'm going to try to give a little bit more back to the patrol guys if I can, because I do feel they need more training than anybody else. And which I think is true across the board, across the country. For all law enforcement agencies, patrol guys need more training. They definitely do, because we train the alert system to all the patrol guys, and we see the lack of training they receive. and you just don't have enough time with them to teach them all the stuff that they need to, So I'm kind of at that point where my physically, I mean, there's only so much things I can do now because I'm almost 50 now. So a lot of it is setting up things for the future so that the department can train patrol guys and stuff. So that's kind of where I am right now.
What's your stance on? So I know I brought it up and then Bryce brought it up. We kind of limit what we share with our families and what we're doing out there. But we talked about, you see that we need more training. We need different training. We need more frequency of training. What's your stance on sharing that with the public as far as how much do you think we need to share with them about what training is actually doing for our guys? Because I think that one of the biggest problems that we've had, and I did it out there, was nobody wanted to share that with the public. Nobody wanted to tell them what we did. And obviously you don't want to give the tools of the trade away.
Right.
But what about sharing with the public what it is that we need to do more?
I don't think there's anything wrong with telling the public what we're training the officers on. You know what I mean? They should know what we're being trained on. They should know that we only have so much training when it comes to interacting with mentally, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say, what do you call it? What's the word?
Sure. Yeah. No. I get what you're talking about, and how we're dealing with those crisis response teams that we're pushing out there across the country now. That type of training is very important for us. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that the public needs to know what it is that we're training on, because there's always people out there that can help us, and different people have different perspectives on life. And
I don't even think it's the what we're training, but why. I think that they don't understand the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis, which the mental health issues that it's hard to reason with people that don't reason. Yeah. So I think it's not even what, but why.
Right.
And so it's the education, and people don't want to hear it because, well, I won't get into that, but
I mean, on the tactics side, I think it's a fine line what we tell the public, right? Yeah, we can tell them we're training the officers on, I don't know, like how to do room entries, how to set up a perimeter, how to do breaching, all that kind of stuff. But do we go into details about what we teach them? I mean, that's a fine line too,
Yeah, obviously we don't want to give away the tactics. Tactics, techniques, and procedures? Right. We don't want to give that away. But yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those, we're at that point in time where we have to start, sharing with the people and let them know, it's like, this is what we're trying to do. This is why we're trying to do it, and what can help us. So I'm with you I'm on board with that. And this may be putting the cart ahead of the horse, but you guys have already started it. But what other trainings do y'all see, or what other partnerships do you see between LE and Fire on the next page for us? What else can we start hooking up on?
I mean, I think it can't be just the air program itself, right? It has to be something further, right? It has to be some training on the side where we go to a district, conduct scenarios, have the local fire team that works in the area respond to that training, you know what I mean? And work it that way, where it's like a more real life scenario kind of thing. And it'll be directly working with the guys who work in that area on the PD and the fire side. I think that's the next evolution for us, probably.
I like it. And that's definitely what we need. We need more interaction, because we're out there together all the time. I taught an air class in the city of Miami. We had city cops, county cops, city fire, and county fire. And it was funny to see that the fire, the heat between them in these arguments. It's like, this is never going to work. This is never going to work. It's like, guys, you do this all the time. It's like every major sporting event, and Miami has a bunch of them. And they started out, we do this all the time. But the same reaction, it was one of those, we had a fire guy in there, had 35 years on the department, had never trained with police before. And by the end of the week, they were having drinks and having a good time. And it was great. Not drinks in class, but afterwards. I checked on them. So everything's good. So we've got a lot of goals ahead of us. We've talked about resiliency. So Bryce, you've kind of been on the quiet side here, and I'm not going to let you get away with that. So tomorrow we're going to move you up to the major leagues. And in your law enforcement career, we're going to start doing walk-up songs. What's your walk-up song?
Yes.
Walk-up song.
That's a good question.
What's a walk-up song?
It's like when you go out
Yeah, I don't
into
even
like
know what that
before,
is.
right before a fight, and you have that song playing, and you walk out, and
Fighters have walk-up songs.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball players have walk-up songs. All the big stars have walk-up songs. So if there's a theme song for Bryce's life, or for when Bryce comes up to a call, what's your theme song? What's your walk-up song?
You know, well, I'm more of like a wallflower, to be honest. And it's funny because that was my what I was told in the psychology review when I first got into this department. That I just like to stay in the background. Shoot, you know, I probably have some kind of reggae music because I don't know. Let's see.
I like that. Some
Yeah.
reggae music.
You know, I
That's
grew
not
up on
bad.
I grew up on the outer island, so it was all reggae music and bonfires and stuff. So
and that's it.
Say,
Just reggae and
say
bonfires.
it's
no
just
more.
reggae and bonfires, you know. So
We're going to pass the witness on this one.
yeah, so it's it would probably have to be some kind of reggae song. And you know, I can tell I'm getting older because a lot of the music I like back in the day, I'm kind of like, wow, I really listened to this kind of stuff back then.
It gets
So,
worse.
Yeah, and I'm only in my mid-30s, so I can tell when I'm flipping through the radio channels. I'm like, oh, this song is terrible. What are these?
Well, that's
kids,
good.
what
When
are
you,
these
when you
kids
hit
listening
50,
to?
when you hit 50, you stop listening to music and all you're listening to is podcasts. Trust me on this. Kiana, same question. What's your walk-up song?
Can you go to him first?
No, no.
There's so many to choose from. I think it depends on the day. Sometimes it's going to be Gloria Gaynor,
Oh, yeah.
and I Will Survive.
I like that.
And then other days, it could be. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to stick with that for now. I really love ABBA, so I might have to do ABBA.
Wow. I like that. That's
Some
good.
dancing
You
queen.
gotta embrace. You gotta embrace it.
Yeah, you're coming out of the right time era for me. I'm enjoying all that.
I don't
Wanna
think
ask-
he understands the references. He's too young.
No, he's going to Google that. He'll Google that on the way out of here. So, you know what, Emily, I haven't asked you anything. How about you? What's your walk-up song?
Oh, I thought I was gonna get away with that one.
No, you cannot.
Go to yeah.
I tried.
I know. Man, there are too many.
Like I said, it depends on the day.
I
Right?
know. I mean, there's.
Yeah, constantly changing walk-up songs. I'm all for that. I wanted to see what y'all were feeling today.
I mean, it could be anything from. Let's see. I mean. Oh my gosh.
I like that. I put her
I
in
know
the
you
hot seat.
really put her in the
Yeah.
I
hot
caught
seat.
her off guard.
Yeah.
No worries. I'll come back to you later. Neil, let me ask you something different. So you've been around for 22 years. You've had a great career. You have a really cool story. You know, you moved here from Korea. You remember the move. There's a lot of cool history in Neil Han's story.
No, there really isn't.
There really is. You're a naturalized citizen. It's like you have a lot of cool things to talk about. When we sit down and make the Neil Han autobiographical movie, who plays you?
I have no idea.
No,
Daniel Day-Kim.
I like that.
Wow, that's a tough one. I have no idea. I've never even. I would prefer to be somebody unknown,
Well, that's cool.
not anybody famous.
That's a
Somebody
good
came
answer.
out of the shadows.
Yeah.
I like that. Most cops, I think, would tend to go with somebody like The Rock or Samuel L. Jackson.
I think it's because for me, I never thought I was going to be in this role.
Yeah.
For the department, like my first 10 years in the department, I would have never thought 10 years after that I would be in this role I am right now. So I probably would have mind somebody not assuming, you know what I mean?
Right.
Take that role kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great answer. We don't have a name to it, but I like that. That's a great answer. Cool. So one of my favorites, yeah, I'm probably going to ask you the same question in a second, Kiana, but one of my favorite questions that I heard this from a different podcast along the way. And I'll kind of throw this out as a blanket question to all of y'all. You've had the opportunity to do a lot of stuff. You've impacted people's lives on a daily basis. Sports growing up, you learned a lot from people along the way. Who's on your personal Mount Rushmore? Like, who are those guys? Who are those people, those leaders in your life that stand out the most?
Okay, I'm just gonna go totally soft and super girly right now, but 100% my dad's up there.
Yeah,
100%. Everybody else is like such a distant. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be one person on Mount Rushmore, and that's gonna be Dad.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's big. That's good.
No, I owe everything to him. Absolutely. Yeah, I think he made me the person that I am. Got to hang out with. Like I said, I was his tomboy, so I did like all the sports. Got to work on cars. Got to do the manual labor stuff. I grew up a lot because of the stuff that he taught me. So 100%.
Is he still around?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you still lean on him that same way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he get those calls?
Yeah. Daddy. Daddy, I need help. No, he's the guy. He's always been the guy to support me every single step of the way through the department, through stupid stuff that I used to do as a kid. Yeah, he's always been there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you send him the links to this show when it comes out.
Absolutely not. He already knows. He already knows how I feel.
That's awesome. Yeah. Bryce, Mount Rushmore.
In general, for in my life, other than my parents, probably have to be my wife and kids. I gotta give her. I always tease her and talk a lot of smack to her when we're at home, and I'm the one that's like poking at her, like poking the bear, and constantly harassing her and teasing her. But I don't give her enough credit for like putting up with all my bullshit, So
yeah.
And then I know like if I didn't have a wife and kids, I'd probably be doing a lot different things, because they kind of hold me down. And not hold me down, but keep me grounded.
This is being recorded, Brian.
That's exactly what it means.
Well, I said that wrong. They keep me like, they make me behave. Because even though mostly I don't like to talk much, I can get out of hand sometimes. So, and I know that. So, they keep me well behaved, and I think that's what helped me progress through my life and my career so far. Yeah,
I like that. What about you?
Definitely my mother. I was a mama's boy growing up, so definitely my mom. Definitely my wife. She's definitely like Bryce. She keeps me very level. Her and I are very good balance in that sense, and she's very supportive of what I do. The guys here know like my schedule is pretty crazy. And she's very supportive of that and stuff. So she's actually helped me develop in my career because of all the support she gives me, all the time away from home and all that stuff. So those are probably definitely two. I don't know. I'm pretty sure like when I was younger, like in high school, there were some coaches that definitely shaped the way my life went. So I'll probably have to add some of them in there. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Absolutely. So none of you all said anything about your training officers. And I know that those guys stood out to me in the career. And I don't know if they're Mount Rushmore guys. One of them's about the size of Mount Rushmore, but he was a great instructor, and he tried his hardest to make sure that once I got done with him, that I was prepared for anything that I was going to face out on the road. And I really think that he did probably the best job of any of the training officers that I saw in my career. And I think it's very important. I've got a couple questions left for y'all, but Emily, do you have anything for them that you've that have struck a chord with you that you've heard, or maybe you want to ask them?
No, I mean, no questions really. Just I love listening to y'all's firsthand accounts. I caught myself just kind of listening just, sitting here listening to you guys and forgetting that I'm needing to actually do stuff over here and making sure everything is working properly. But it's very interesting to me, and I've loved sitting here listening to y'all. So
It's not getting you out of the walkout song. We're still waiting.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna come back to you on that. I want to know what your walk-up song is. I know. Let's go around the room real quick and find out. So who's gonna play you in your movie, Kiana?
Oh, my movie's boring. I don't know. I don't think
I'm gonna call BS on that one.
I think my husband might be the better person to ask that question. I don't know. I'm low key. I wouldn't have any idea.
All right.
Yeah. No clue.
Bryce?
Daniel Day-Kim.
Maybe, possibly. Nah, you know what? But I was thinking about a good song, and I do like country.
Yeah.
So what's that? Billy Currington.
Okay.
God is great, beer is good. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
is that the
Yes.
right one?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the
Yeah.
song.
Yeah,
Billy
that,
Currington.
I like that song. So other than reggae, it was a lot of country music too. So
Yeah.
I like. Well, now it's more country music. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's very
So-
Texas of you.
yeah.
Yes, I like that. I think I'm stuck somewhere between Kevin James and Jack Black playing in my role. Emily.
Jack Black.
She
That's
just
a good
pictured
one.
it.
I know. That's a great visual.
Who plays you, Emily?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You asked me this the other day. Actresses. Okay, who did I say the other day?
I think you said Blake Lively.
Oh yeah, I like Blake Lively. Yeah, Blake Lively or Kate Beckinsale. She's a badass.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Kate
Yeah,
Beckinsale.
she's good.
Mhm.
So you guys, the two of you, Neil and Kiana, you're not too far off from the retirement list. And I know that once we get to that side of the line, we start counting it off and start prepping a plan. What's on your bucket list? What's the top line on your bucket list? I can give you mine. The top line on my bucket list is to get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's always been, since I was a kid, that's always been one of those things.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really want to do that. What about you guys?
I'm traveling, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my husband have.
What's the first place you want to hit?
We're buying property in somewhere in Europe. That's all
Awesome.
I know.
That's great.
100%. Yeah.
So you're ready to move and get out and experience it all.
My husband's waiting for me. I'm holding him back right now. Poor guy. He can retire at any time, and he's waiting an additional 5 years because that's how much I have to do.
All
But,
right.
Yeah, we've, even more so, especially with our jobs. It's like we gotta just live life to its fullest. So we're just gonna end up seeing every place that we couldn't see so far, and go get into trouble and drink
Cool.
lots of wine and eat lots of food.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep in touch. I want to hear about that.
Oh,
I want to hear about the
absolutely.
travels.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I'm a travel guy too, but I'm more of a road trip kind of guy.
Okay.
So I've done the West Coast, Midwest, East, whatever. I've never done the South. The furthest south I've gone is actually San Marcos
Oh,
because
okay.
I've gone to class over there. But I've never been to like Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, that stuff. So I wouldn't mind doing a South road trip.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're around. I'll put you to work to teach you some classes down there. One of my buddies from the FBI, he told me how he used to plan road trips with his kids, and he would have them each pick out a place they wanted to go to, and make them plan out what they wanted to hit
Oh,
along the
nice.
way. And it was such a cool idea.
Right.
So my kids got hit with that along the way as well. It's just a really cool, thing. What's top of your bucket list, Bryce?
Well, I think I have quite a few years left until I can retire. But I was never a traveler, and my wife introduced me to traveling internationally. So when I get to that point, maybe 15, 20 years from now, that would probably be travel. We really like Japan, going to Japan.
Oh, awesome.
And then I wouldn't mind checking out some of the sites on the mainland. Texas being one of them. I have a cousin out there that lives in Texas, so one of these days I gotta go see him and check out his lifestyle. But the travel thing, I think that's kind of a fair, probably move back to Kauai, where I grew up, and then just travel and relax. That's probably what my end game would be.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have something to go do, something you want to go do afterwards. And I think that's one of the things that I was never taught as a young recruit, as a young officer. I was never taught to prepare for that. How do we save for retirement? How do we plan what we're going to do when we're done? And you have to have something you want to go do. And traveling, I think, is one of the best things that you can actually get out there and experience. So, I think I'm pretty close to the end here. I do want to hear what Emily's walk-up song would be. I don't know if you've come up with one yet.
Not really a particular song, but probably something from like Miranda Lambert or,
That's a good vibe.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I can't thank you all enough. I know I kept you all for a lot longer than just a couple of minutes, but golly, I really enjoyed hearing your all's input on life as an Islander, the training, the incidents, all of that stuff, and how you all handle things. Thank you very much. Is there anybody y'all want to say goodbye to before we wrap it up? No?
No, but thank you.
No,
Thanks
you guys
for the invite.
very much.
It was fun. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Good. We'll make sure y'all have the links when it comes out. And thanks again for being here. Emily, you want to get us out of here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. We'll go that's a yes, guys.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I guess in producer talk, that's a yes. We'll go ahead and fade to black.
All right.